Oh, blimey, it's quite cold. I goofed. Right? How you doing? I've been running the camera's battery like near empty the last couple of days and completely forgot to put one on charge today. And then didn't vlog the entire day. I was like, hey, I better vlog. There's no power in the battery, so hey ho. Thin. Honestly, very thin. I've been so bored waiting for the boys to come home. They are home now, so I've been like really happy when they did come home. Bless them. They got new shoes and new coats, and they seemed super happy. And we all played some fighting games outside. Fatal Fury 2 was the fighting game of choice today. And talking to Noodle about old, what was it, old GameCube stuff, and a bit of Minecraft, and they were telling me about things that they'd done and things they want to do, and I had a bit of a chat with Grandma, and I'm going to be honest with you, it's been an alright day, but my morale's been a bit low. And, because Grandma asked me, and she didn't mean anything nasty by it, and the way I'm going to word it isn't going to make it sound great, but, she asked me, like, have I got everything done this weekend? And I answered, no, not really. Never really get much of a chance to get everything done because I wasn't entirely sure what it was she was asking me about, to be honest. And I was like, well, I've kind of done the vlog. I can't really do the vlogs because the vlog channel's still broken. Done the podcast, sent the podcast through, but I'm gonna have another one of those to do soon. Still doing some tweaks and things here and there for other stuff. And I mentioned to her about the YouTube channel being broken. All of the daily vlogs up until this point and moving forwards on the channel youtube.com/Skazius, that's currently gone. Everything is gone. The whole, because my mother-in-law knows the whole point of the vlogs and that for family and friends and that, to be able to go back and watch them, and for me to be able to go back and watch them at some point, and then be able to watch them, and the kids and that. And she said, oh well, that's, is there any chance you're going to get them back? And I was like, probably not. I go, so the whole thing was kind of pointless. I say, but I have sorted out some, like the first year. She said, oh, have you watched through some of them? I said, I have. She said, oh, do you ever watch them through? I said, I have, but I've now made it a rule that I probably won't from this point on, because they made me miserable. Going back to them has really kind of upset me a bit, because it's reminded me of how bad of a state Inky and I were way back then. How living in the city had made me miserable, and I didn't realise at the time that Inky was really quite unwell and suffering quite heavy with depression. And I mentioned it the other day that really how things weren't quite prioritised the way they should have been. And my mother-in-law was like, she basically said, look, children don't come with manuals, life doesn't come with a manual. Accidents happen, because I mentioned about a couple of times when William got hurt, and she remembered a couple of them. She said, I remember when one of the boys had a big bruise on the head and that, and the time when I think it might have been when Noodle fell and cut his little head. She said she remembered all those. She said she remembers how kind of torn up I was about it. And I said, the first few years were really, really hard, but it's not until years later that we realised quite how hard they were. And she basically mentioned how she has a calendar, some old calendars that she's kept, and on the calendar it's marked like how, when she's had the boys from like when they were babies. And she said like how the first year was like she'd have the boys for a week, a couple of days to a week at a time, really quite early on, and she was there quite a bit, and my mum was there too, and It didn't. It wasn't supposed to make me feel like a shit dad, but it really did make me feel like a shit dad. It really made me feel bad. Like, yeah, I wasn't even. I wasn't even like, hardcore up for the job. I wouldn't. Let's just to be clear, I didn't ask my mother-in-law to take the boys. Even now, I don't really ask my mother-in-law to do it. This is all, if Inky wants the boys to go, or if the boys want to go, or if my mother-in-law want to take him, I won't say a word about it. I'm just like, if you want to go, it's your groove, and just just being reminded that there were times when my mother-in-law and that had the boys because of just like random things. I'd just come out of hospital. Did I have? I can't remember if I had my leg in a cast when William was born. I don't remember, or I might not have long come out from having a cast, or did I have one? There were several times in the first few years of the boys being born that I had many surgeries, but you know, probably really bad timing for having children. Not that you can time having children. Just reminded me of how depressed Inky was, how sick she was, how depressed I was, how sick I was, how I didn't even realise these things at the time. Just I felt really shitty, and then we talked, and it was good. It was civil. It was nice. It was nice to talk. It is nice to talk about some of the past events and that, just to kind of unload in that. Reassuring my mother-in-law that she is not a horrible person and that she's done as best as she can, and she does the same thing for me, bless her. But it's just it that was a bit of a kicker to me, and then again she didn't mean it in a nasty way. I just felt really bad, and when a little bit later on in the day, all of a sudden I couldn't use my right hand. I don't know why. Just like, I mean, it's better now. I'm holding the phone with my right hand, but I couldn't properly use my right hand. There was just this sharp pain going through a few of my fingers for no reason. Like veins had come up just black across a couple of my fingers, and like my hand looked like it had been bruised. But I didn't. I don't remember hitting it or hurting it, and it was just weird. And then so for a bit of time I was struggling to use my right hand at all this afternoon or today. And then the day just kind of drifted away. So can I throw out there a highlight? Random highlight. Getting an invite to Mav's birthday stream. That was cool. That was cool. Again, talking to my mother-in-law. That was cool. Hanging out with my mum today, because I saw my mum today. That was cool. Me and Inky have just had a romantic meal for two of eggs on toast. Highlight of my day. Seeing my boys' smiling goddamn faces. Good times. Playing Fatal Fury 2 with William. Super happy times. I just... And so other than all that, all I've done is played Astral Chain. Looks like I've finished the game. I've done chapter 11. The game says that there's another, or file 11, and it says that there is another file. I've only played through the game on casual, which seems to be the default mode for the game. But I'll tell you now, I reckon if I had that on anything other than casual, that would have been brutal as fuck. It did the typical Platinum, super huge, amazing, hardcore boss. It's a spectacle. But there weren't really a lot going on. Other than a few minor problems with Astral Chain, it's a very, very, very good game. And it sits in my top 6 most played games on Nintendo Switch, which is pretty rad. I think by the time I finish Chapter 12, it'll probably be in my top 5. And if I go through it again as the female lead, which there's no real reason to, I just think they have separate levels, I think. Then I after beating the story, I was tempted to go through it, or beating that part of the story, I was tempted to go through as the female character to see what the game looks like, certain scenes look like when the male character is the kind of side character. Yeah. Sometimes platinum bigger isn't always better. Just because it looks big and amazing doesn't make it fun. That's that. That's my day. Glad to have my boys home. I really do feel just... I'm low in some regards and up in others. I was commented that it seemed like the time when we all kind of lit up was when we moved into this house all those years ago. That this was the moment when things started to look up. So all the times we spent in Norwich were pretty miserable. And that, the two houses we had in Norwich were not particularly great. When we first moved to Lowestoft again, not particularly great. But when we got here, confirmed, a lot of people have said it looked like we were better off, we were happier. I just want to throw out there, never, ever, ever feel bad about your past. I know that sounds silly considering what I've just said, but I do tend to hang up on things. It's just the way I'm wired. But you can't change it. It is as it is. Learn from it, move forwards, become a better person through it. It's fine to accept support and never feel bad for taking support or getting help, which again kind of goes against what I just said, but and if you need it and it doesn't seem like there's any around, call out, scream for it, and goddamn it, if I'm about and you just want to rant, I'm here. And don't feel bad for it. Sometimes the most trivial things in life they can come across as really hard, soul-crushing, end of the world things. It can be super trivial, but it could also be the end of the world. I'm gonna head off. Inky went out today and she didn't go out, she went to a friend's, and she's come back, she's not feeling particularly well. I think she's probably eaten something with a bit of gluten in it, and she's just not. Bless her. So, and we've got to get the boys to school tomorrow, so. Sorry. Hope you're well. I'll see you all with a bit of luck tomorrow.